Okay, Jim, we're filming now, and today it's February 13th, 2020, and we were just talking about Chief Plenty Coups.
Right, and Plenty Coups was probably the greatest Indian chief in the history of Montana. And fought for his people all the way through, and yet he tried to get along with the whites. He always was interested in education for the Indians so that they could learn to somehow live with the white nation.
Right.
And let's see that. Being the chief on and this story would be the reservation would be across.
I'm going to turn that off, but we can just keep going. There.
The reservation was across the river from Park City. In fact, it ran all the way to Livingston. At the time of this Plenty Coups, when the Blackfeet come down and liberated their horses, the Indian nations always were interested in stealing the other tribes' horses. It was a thing of pride, and it wasn't like they were thieves. This was their job. The Crows were just as guilty as the Blackfeet or any of the nations.
So are you saying it was like a friendly sport between them, kind of?
Well, they were still, at 1883, they were still counting coups, which made them warriors. And maybe, should we read some of this?
Sure, yeah.
Let's see, it says here that there has been ceaseless conjecture among historians and philosophers about the role through history of the true patriot. When a nation of people is conquered, is the patriot one who leads his people in defiance, however hopeless, or he is rather one who seeks to lead them honorably in an inevitable new way of life.
Plenty Coups was known for working both with his tribe and with the white people, even though they invaded their lands.
He counted Billings as second home to him, and they would come in, and whenever he came, there'd be a crowd of them, and they spent money if they had it, and traded things like hides and that. He was always trying to get along with the white people, and by the same token, upgrade his own people. Plenty Coups was born in 1848 near the site of present-day Billings, and he called that No Pass. No Pass. It was a rock cliff,
Okay, so somewhere along the rim rock?
Yes.
Okay.
No Pass rim rock. Then this here story is one small story of his long life as he struggled with the white world and led the Crow Indian world. During the years of his life, Plenty Coups lived in the life of roaming Indians who traveled in bands headed by a chief. They went where they could find a buffalo and other game. Are you all right for that?
Sure. Okay, when they were, earlier when we were talking, you were talking about when the reservation and the people lived by Park City.
Yeah. Well, what the Crows did was their end, they had a big horse herd and they were over out of Joliet and in that area, and it was wintertime, and their horses had to paw the snow aside to feed on whatever they could find in the grass and that. Whereas, and so when the Blackfeet went in there, they picked up probably 50 to 60 of his horses that were just out there. Then as they, and of course they had to get back to the reservation at Browning. So they crossed the river there at Park City, and there was at that time there was some early ranchers there, probably half illegal. And they picked up some of their horses, and they kept going up Red and King Gulch, I say, and headed north to the Little Snowies to cross over and be in their reservation.
So Red and King Gulch, they crossed from Park City,
Yeah, they
going north.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they broke out on top. Then there was after a bit there would be open prairie. Now it's all wheat farms.
Right. Okay.
And it was so cold that winter, it was like 20 and 30 below, and the river was froze over, so they came across the river to the Park City area, just on the ice.
Wow.
With their horses. And he had about 7 or 8 Indians with him, and they finally sent some of them back. One of the reasons about the horses was that the white people's horses, they had them in barns and they was feeding them hay and stuff. And then they were healthy horses.
Right.
Where the Indians, in the wintertime, they suffered and they weren't
I bet.
in good shape.
Yeah.
And that bothered them all the way through. As the Plenty Coups come through there, then they joined, the white guys wanted to go along with them. And I think there was like it was maybe 5, 6, 7 guys there. And they took off and went up, like I say, Red King Gulch.
Okay.
Then
These white guys, they joined with Plenty Coup to go after their horses?
Yeah.
Okay.
To get their horses too.
Right.
And Plenty Coups complains about them. He says, well, they were overdressed in the first place, he always says in here. They had too many clothes on. And then all they thought about was eating and stuff. They'd stop and fix food. And Plenty Coups said, I told them, I said, them Blackfoot had a lot of horses. And they weren't making really good time because they had to keep herding them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said to the white guys, we better get after them. We'll catch them if we can keep moving. And the guys said, no, we're going to eat. And so anyway, Plenty Coups went on without them. So when they discovered that his 2 Indians, I think it was down to 2 Indians by that time because the horses just wouldn't keep up. So he sent them, he told them 2 guys, he said, well, I think you guys could sit still and I'll look over. And then he seen where they piled some rocks and snow up on a ridge there. He thought, by golly, that was the Blackfeet, all right. They'd caught them. So, and then by that time, here comes the guys from Eaton up, and he warned them that the Blackfeet were up there. And these white guys said, well, they just charged right up the hill. And
They wanted their horses back.
Blackfeet fired them, killed 2 of them right off their horses, and wounded another guy. So Plenty Coups, anyway, he describes it really well in here. Should we read some of that?
Sure, you can, yeah.
Did I?
Right there?
There it is. And,
How did you hear about all this, Jim?
in the newspapers at Columbus,
Okay,
at the library,
at the, okay,
and Park City Library.
and the Park City Library,
Yeah, Mrs. Brown,
right?
God put all that stuff in, and of course Jim Annan added so many things to it. Mm-hmm. And you remember Jim?
I do remember Jim.
Okay, so after an arduous ride of 40 miles, Tate, Ames, Seidel, and Owens, who were considerably in advance, overhaul the pagans, how you say it?
Pegon,
Pegons?
maybe? Yeah.
Let's say
How
pagans.
many do I need to take down to KC's? And
Oh. After, yeah, overhauling the pagans,
I think.
pagans in Hailstone Basin near Painted Robe Creek, and came upon them in such a way as to get the drop on them. This is the white man's version. Believing they had the pagans in their power, Ames lowered his rifle and said to his comrades, "Let us not kill them, but take them prisoners." Lowered his gun also, and instantly they were both shot dead by the Blackfeet warriors.
Wow.
So that part, okay.
They
so-
weren't expecting that, I guess.
Yeah, well, when you
Okay.
read Plenty Coups' version
Version.
of that, Plenty Coups' version is this, starts here. He was telling Frank Linderman of the battle at Hailstone Basin, and this is Plenty Coups' version. One winter day when the snow was deep, our wolves, which is warriors that were always on guard in a reservation for the Blackfeet.
Okay.
For our wolves came in and told us the Pekinis had stolen many of our horses. I was camped with about 40 lodges on Rock Creek. Now see, that was over here, this Rock Creek. And our horses were running the hills where they could paw away the snow and get grass because of the slow days that had come to us with the white men and a lack of long grass to cut with our knives. We had no good horses tied near our lodges ready for trouble, as we always had when the buffalo were plentiful. We had to go out on the hills and catch horses to ride. You know, he was kind of bitter about that. He said, you know, our old days we always had plenty of everything,
Right.
and now we don't have.
Enough.
We had to go out on the hills and catch the horses to ride. That is the way we live now, like a lot of sleepy people whom anybody might whip.
Well,
It's a little bitter there.
yeah, it sounds like it.
8 of us went out and caught up our best horses, the fastest and strongest. We expected the trail to be a long one and kept wondering if white men would stop us from getting back our property. Anyway, we started and picked up the Pekini Trail on Elk River. Elk River was the Yellowstone.
The Yellowstone,
They
right.
called it Elk River. The water was frozen, so we crossed on the ice in the face of a cold wind that kept it in white, clear snow, which had drifted into piles out on the plains and along the riverbanks. Where Park City now stands, we came to a few houses, and the white men who lived in them told us the Pekinis or somebody had taken most of their horses too. We talked to them the best we could with signs and a little English. When we knew is nearly right along us is to get their stolen property. I believed them able to take care of themselves and agreed which one of the most foolish things I ever did.
Yeah.
Thought they could take care of themselves. I'm not the best reader, they could. They began to show me this soon after we started. The horses had been eating hay and oats in a house, while ours had been pawing snow for grass in the windy hills. Naturally, their horses could travel faster than ours, but because the trail was likely to be long, and I tried to hold the white men back by telling them to save their animals for trouble later. They would not listen and rode on while we walked until their animals grew tired. Then the white men camped. When I passed them by their fire, they wished me to stay with them, but I told them the Pekinis would not camp, and then if we expected to catch them, we must keep going, I explained to them, as best I could, that the thieves were driving nearly 100 horses and would be unable to go as far in a day as we could if we kept at it. This did no good. They said the horses were tired out, and of course they were, having been ridden all day in the deep snow, So see, and he's bitching about that too, see.
Right.
So I left them wishing with all my heart that I had not sent 4 of my men back to the Crow village when these white men joined me to go after the McKinney.
Sure.
They caught up with us late in the next afternoon and at once began to talk about camping and eating. But this time I pretended not to hear them at all. I kept pushing on with my 3 men, Plain Bull, who was with us, Strikes on the Head, and Big Sky thanking luck, and that no more than 4 white men were in our party. I saw they were a hindrance instead of a help, and that if left to themselves they would never in this life catch a Pekingese horse thief. In the middle of the night we came to the headwaters of the Musselshell, and when the 7 stars, the Big Dipper, had turned clear around Elk K-E-Say, North Stars, that's Crow for North Star. I saw that the 2 of my men were far behind because of the condition of the horses. I knew I should have given them rest and stopped to look for a good place. I signed all to stop while I looked a little farther before camping. It was well I did so. I had gone but a little way when I became suspicious of a place in the rim rock above him where the snow was piled about some boulders and stooped low to get the sky between me and the rim rock. Discovered some horses above it besides. I smelled a small smoke that was from a nearly dead fire. The Pekingese were near it, I knew. Not daring to trust a white man to do the right thing, I hurried back to where they were waiting with Plain Bull. Stay here, I signed to them. I'll go ahead now and steal their guns. This was a little bravado. Steal their guns before we attack them if I can. But I could not hold my white friends. They were unmanageable and on their horses to charge the camp in that dim light. I ran ahead waving them back, but they followed on horseback and began to yell. Yes, I'm telling the truth. They began to yell, and I dodged behind a boulder, leaving them out there sitting on their horses and yelping like coyotes. They did not shout long. The Pekingese were not fools. I soon saw a rifle poking over the rim rock, one of which spurted fire down one of the white men with a bullet over his eyes. Go back, I called, making the sign by my word did no good. There they sat on their horses, wearing too many clothes and looking foolish, until another tumbled off his horse with a ball in his forehead. This time the 2 others moved a little. One jumped from his horse and hid behind a boulder. He was smarter than the others, but just as he poked his rifle over the boulder, a bullet struck the rock and glanced into his face. The lead bullet split and splattered, making a terrible wound that knocked him down in the snow, as though finished. I looked to see what the other was going to do with himself and saw him running away as fast as he could go. Next I saw him stagger and fall, get up again and run and tumble. I thought he stayed there. I would have helped him if I could, even though I thought him worth very little. My 2 men were coming now and getting themselves into position to hold the Pekingese from getting away. I had not yet got a shot. Bullets chipped pieces from my boulder every time I stuck my head above it, and I had to be careful. These Pekingese did good shooting that morning. I kept them wasting their ammunition by making them think my robe was my head. While I watched for a shot at a tall Pekingese who I knew had done some damage to the white man, he had seen the 2 Crows join us among the boulders and probably thought more were coming and that it was time to move from where he was. I was expecting him to make a run for a different cover, but when I did, I missed him clean, shooting too low. My bullet made him duck behind another rock that was not as good as the one he had left, and I made ready to get for him to come out again. When he did, I doubled him up. The others saw him fall, which made them wish to move to the rocks higher up on the hill. When they started, I made one of the best shots I ever fired, killing one of them up halfway up that hill, so easily as though he had not have been just against my gun barrel. One of the others who had a Winchester, see what he's saying is, I made one of the best shots I ever fired, killing one of them halfway up the hill as easily as though he had been against my gun barrel.
Wow.
One of the others who had a Winchester began a lively spurt of shooting now, but they were in a tight place and knew it. Their guns were faster than ours, but ours carried bullets farther and could reach their position even on higher rocks. However, our own were accomplishing more than theirs, so after stationing 2 of my men to hold the bikinis where they were, I crept back with Plain Bull to see what we could do for the white man whose face had been smashed. We found him breathing like a snorting horse and bleeding badly. We carried him to a safer place, dragged the 2 dead men together, then went to look at the trail left in the snow by the white man who had run away and fell down. We followed his tracks only a little way, looking carefully for blood where he had fallen, and go up, found where he tumbled again, and then floundered to his feet to run on. He had not been wounded, only scared, so we came back to the job of trying to get other bikinis among the rocks. On our return, we stopped again by the wounded man. While we were kneeling down to see if there was anything we could do for him, we heard horses coming, a dozen of them, more of them. We stood up not for long, white men began to shoot at us. Another posse come up.
Oh no.
I waved my hand and made a sign for friend, but they did not understand and kept shooting. Their bullets were kicking up the stones around us, and we feared they might kill the wounded white man. We dragged him behind a boulder, saved him, and being finished by his own people, and hid ourselves to think we were in a bad situation, with white men shooting in front and bikinis shooting behind. We thought if we shot up the hill at the bikinis, the white men would understand that we were friends, but when we tried this, it did no good. The white men's bullets kept clipping against our boulders. Some other thing had to be done quickly. I tied a piece of buckskin on my wiping stick and stood up unarmed, holding my stick high with my right hand. I stretched my left above my head so that anybody could see I had no weapons. In this manner, expecting to be shot down, I began walking toward these men, and more than one bullet was fired at me before they stopped shooting. They at last realized that I was only one man and unarmed, and that I could not possibly kill them. When I got near enough to speak my name in English, fortunately one of them knew it. This ended the trouble. We shook hands.
Oh, jeez.
I led them to the spot where the friends were, and as best as I could, with signs and a very few English words, explained that it happened. While some of them were examining the wounded man, the dead man, whose bodies were now frozen very hard, 2 white men went out to find the man who had run away. So Plain Bull and I started again to see what we could do toward killing the other bikinis. We crept up the hill, rock to rock, while Big Sky and Strikes on the head kept up their fire until they came to the tall one's body, the one he'd shot
Okay.
first. Up and walking to the tall one, counted the coup on him.
Ah.
In face of the firing up. Yeah,
So he scalped them?
I don't think. I think what they had to do is touch him.
Touch them, okay.
Well, if they didn't lift their hair.
Right.
Counted coup on him in the face of firing up a hill, but the white men now began calling and beckoning to us. They had promised to keep up their fire while we did this, but now when they began calling and beckoning, they quit shooting. We turned back, leaving it bikini unscalped. I have felt sorry ever since.
Oh no.
The white men had built a large fire, and also they had gone out and killed a white man's cow, so they might have meat to eat. Although these white men seemed to think about eating and camping, but we Crows were hungry too, so we ate meat with them, while the bikinis made good their escape. I wished I had a few more Crows with me instead of these white men. While we were eating, the white men had gone in to follow the one that ran away, came back with the coward. He was unhit. 2 bullets had struck his fur overcoat, and one had knocked him down the snow. He had got up running and hadn't stopped for a long time. I myself got 3 holes in my capote and one on my shirt, but my skin was not even scratched. We rounded up all the horses and helped the white man pack their dead in on gentle animals. Their bodies were so frozen they had to break them across the back of the horses so they could carry them away from here. I led the Park City back to Park City. The weather was so cold that the trees popped and snapped. More than once we were obliged to stop and build fires to warm the white men who wore too many clothes. The snow in places was drifted very deep, but never did we unhaul the horses after that carried the dead. Many times since then I remembered how strange the stiff arms and legs looked in the clear moonlight, especially when we were among scattered trees. They did not please me, I remember. It was a hard journey for these white men, 2 whole days and nights, while little rest back us into Park City, the white men's village, and it was there I learned that the white women mourn as ours do. Their hearts fell on the ground, and when I heard them crying and wailing their men who need not have died, if only had used their heads a little. I do not like to fight with white men.
I can understand that. You know, it's too bad that those white people that came and had homesteads near Park City, that they didn't learn from the Indians, you know, a little bit about, you know, how to go into battle for one thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, just how to survive in the winter. Geez, it had to be so hard.
Yeah, there's a little note here in the end, author's note. Joseph Tate and Chancey Ames were buried at what was called Round Top Butte, which we call Square Butte, near Park City, and the grave headstones are still there, although as the turn of the century, the cemetery was moved to the present-day Park City Cemetery, and but the headstones.
The headstone's still there, and
yeah.
you visited it once, and you had to lift it up and
I did.
prop it back up.
Put a Chinese tripod over it.
Okay.
And lifted up with
And what year was it that these men got killed?
1883.
1883. Okay.
That's the same time as Park City was set up.
Okay.
I mean, the railroad come through Park City in '83. Yeah, that.
But the Indians, the Crow Indians, lived nearby, or did
Yeah,
they had a camp nearby?
They lived in groups all from where the present reservation is all the way to Livingston.
All the way to Livingston.
They loved. I read stories on when they moved them from Absorki to down there.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of them were brokenhearted because they lived in those little valleys where the mountains, you know, the mountain crow is what they call them.
Right.
Some of them, and but they hated that. They didn't want to leave there.
I don't blame them.
But yeah, it was a whole.
And here, Plenty Coup was trying to help them get their horses back.
And get his own too.
And get his own, and yeah, they weren't smart enough to stay alive.
Well, he was I didn't realize this, but Plenty Coups was in the Battle of Little Bighorn. So what?
Okay. Anyway, interesting history of where we live now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Plenty Coups had been a chief since he was 25 years old, and he achieved his rank by accomplishing the 4 classic deeds of valor. He had 4 times touched an enemy in combat.
okay, so that's how he counted
Yeah.
coup.
But of course they lifted to
Right.
He had touched, and let's see, he had 4 times stolen a horse, tied in an enemy, stolen a horse tied in an enemy camp. he had been a leader and carried the pipe of a war party 11 times. Anyway, that was another little addition to this. He was a good looking guy.
He was.
There's some articles run on where they'd come a whole bunch of them from the reservation to Billings from like the 4th of July or.
I've seen pictures of Indian camps that were like near where the fairgrounds are now.
Yeah. And when I was a little kid, when we'd come to Laurel from Park City, which was a long way,
Right.
and there was always Indian tents, teepees set up right there on Main Street on that park, that kind of park there.
Uh-huh.
That was before they built the little building there and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you could see crows, all Crow Indians. Peck's Peck's farm was right there across from, down on the river below Park City there. And we used to get milk from them. It was a dairy farm.
Okay.
But anyway, Peck wrote a lot of stories about the Indians who would come across the river there. And they'd trade good to bring stuff.
Yeah.
But they also bummed all the time too.
Well.
Looking for a free chow. But anyway, so the point being is the Indians were all over.
All over.
That area.
Yeah. Well, interesting stories.
I
And
wish I could talk about them, but it seemed like I was blabbering away there, not doing much. What do you think?
no, you know what? We're gonna edit it, so it'll be just fine. It'll be just fine. So okay.
I took that out of Columbus.
Ah,
It was 1921, is it?
yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, Columbus is 1921.
I don't know if the guy knew what he's talking about, but he did it. But as long as we identify when it was and everything, it should be sometime.
Oh yeah,
Sometime you could use it.
yeah.
Well, okay, so what's your next move? What is our next move?
You know what? I am not sure what our next move is, but I would say give us a couple weeks to play with this and try and get it in. You know, we'll get a map and we'll have you come in and mark where the Indians and the settlers left from Park City, crossed the river, chasing their horses. And you said they went up Red and King Gulch.
And Painted Grove Creek is just at the start of the Little Snowies.
Okay, that's quite a ways in the wintertime. Geez.
Yeah, can you imagine how tough them Blackfeet were? And them
And they
crows.
came all the way from the Browning area. That is a long way to travel.
And there must have been at least 5, because they killed. He did finally scalp. The white guy said he scalped that Indian.
Yeah.
The tall one.
The one, is that the one that he got his best shot in?
I don't know what happened to that guy. He might probably disappeared somewhere. Let's see. Anyway,
So some of this part of Chief Plenty Coups' story came from what he told Frank Linderman. So, and that he wrote Pretty Shield, the book about Pretty Shield.
Oh, was that
Frank Linderman did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He says, Puncture tells. It says the 5th Indian was wounded but made his escape going towards the Snowies. That's the white. And he's somewhere in there, they said, Plenty Coups went and lifted that skull.
Oh yeah.
Scalp. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, so, okay, so I guess what we'll play with the tape.
Sure.
And we'll cut out like where Evan came to the door and talked to me, and we'll cut out, you know, extra noises and stuff, and see what we can do with it. And then we'll have you look at it, and we'll have you draw. I want to get a map so that we can, you know, kind of show maybe where the Blackfeet came from, where everybody met.
Yeah. We need just a Montana map.
A Montana map, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I drove up there once and to go to Roundup, you might say.
okay,
It's out of Roundup. As you go towards the Snowies, not the other way. But Jesus Bend Road Creek is a long creek. Often thought if a fella could find where it was, you could probably find the boulder or something.
would that be fun?
But they went up.
Interesting.
They made another trip up and brought the rifles and everything back.
Ah.
The white guys, I think.
The white guys did. Jeez.
So they cleaned up somewhat the area. And yeah, that's.
I wonder if they ever got their horses.
Well, you know, it doesn't really say they got that many horses, but they must have got some
Yeah.
horses back. Because it runs up about one guy to run them horses back to Browning.
Yeah.
So that'd be pretty hard. I
Oh,
don't know
jeez.
Can you imagine trying to run 50 to 70, 60 horses up Red King Gulch? They'd be wanting to go everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I can't imagine that. Yeah.
They had to know what they were doing.
They had to. But I always heard that. Now I don't know if there's truth to this, but I heard that a lot of Indians used to like to go to Canyon Creek, in that area there, for rest and relaxation, because there was I mean, at least in the summer there was always green grass and flowing water and lots of animals there, and there still is today whenever I drive up there.
And Valley Creek was the same way.
Okay.
There was a lot of rock primitives for teepees.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That, it's a lot. And God, I searched for arrowheads and stuff like that for many years. I had a bunch of them. I would give them away. In a way, I violated the law.
Yeah, I suppose.
Picking up stuff, because, yeah, I found one time a perfect pounder, you know, it's a rock.
Uh-huh.
That they
Cut
yeah,
in around it, so yeah.
pound of meat and stuff. Yeah, I found a few casings from Canyon Creek from
The
well, it wasn't really a battle, but anyway, they called it a battle.
right, they called it a battle. Yeah.
I've read some stories from the guys from out of the library about was in that, you know. But it was a pretty tough fight, all right, but the Indians were up high and they knew.
They were tired already too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was our last chance.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Here.
All right. Okay. So how about? Okay. Well, I'll see you next Wednesday at the parks.
be at that, yeah.
Okay. Super. And then let's say like in a month we'll do another one, maybe on the sugar beets. I was gonna bring my postcards in today and I forgot to show you, but I'll bring them next time. So.
Okay. All right. We can talk about that